What's up everybody? Welcome back to the channel, and today I got a review on the book that started it all for me, that started the journey. Today I'm reviewing Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert T. Kiyosaki. It's coming up right after this. On the very first book review I did on Yourself by Gary Bishop, Parker wrote, "Hey Sean, I'd really like to hear your opinion on Rich Dad, Poor Dad and 7 Habits of Highly Effective People." Well, Parker, today is the day. I'm gonna do Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And like I said, this book kind of started it all for the paradigm shift on how I think about money. So I'm really excited to get into it. Let's get at it. So I don't even remember how I ended up hearing about this book. I think first it was like a Facebook ad, and then a week later I noticed it on the shelf at my uncle's house, and then finally I met a colleague of mine at the time who then started to pitch me this like small business idea he was trying to achieve, and he quoted this book several times, and it kind of got me thinking, everyone seems to be kind of interested in this. Maybe I should go pick up a copy and check it out. So I did. Now, before I get into it, spoiler alert, this book is a little bit of an advertisement for Kiyosaki's other products. So it will advertise a couple of his other books, which I've also read. Also, nothing wrong with reading those ones. He also then advertises a game board he's come up with that kind of, the objective of the game is to sort of improve your financial literacy. Finally, it kind of shifts you into signing up for one of his seminars. And they have these seminars that are usually held in cities around North America. And when you go to the seminar, yes, I did go to the seminar, finally they advertise to you Robert's course on real estate investing and how to do real estate investment. So this whole thing kind of guides you into the real estate investment path, and eventually it pitches you a course. So just so you guys know up front, that's kind of where this goes, but the concepts are still good, the concepts are solid, definitely still read this book. Back to the book. So it's actually kind of like a story. It's called Rich Dad, Poor Dad because it's about Robert's rich dad, which is actually his best friend's dad, and how he compares him to his biological father, who's his poor dad. So his real dad is highly educated, but is always working for money and always seems to be worried about money, whereas his friend's dad had no education, no university or college degree, and seemed to be very wealthy. So in this book, he goes over 6 lessons. I'll get into those later, but it talks about the comparison of the 2 dads and how they do things differently. So I was very fortunate that my dad taught me a lot about saving money and how to spend it wisely, but this book was the first to teach me other concepts such as passive income, the importance of financial literacy. It also teaches you about how your home isn't an asset, and working for money versus making money work for you, as well as thinking of money in terms of opportunities. So I'm going to spend a little bit more time on this review than I normally would because I really owe a lot to this book. I started to read it at a time in my life when I was just coming out of university, starting my career and making real money for the first time. I had been taught lots of good concepts by my dad about saving money. However, not so much about thinking of everything I have in terms of assets and liabilities. The plan was really to work hard, move up the corporate ladder and make more money, get the next job that makes more money so that you can save more money or spend more money. That's not how this book is set up. So like I said, I'm coming back to university for my last year after internship, and I noticed that a lot of the other students have bought new cars, bought like fancy brand name clothes. But again, thanks to my dad, I actually took that money and saved up and later would put it on a down payment for a condo. Now, I hadn't figured out passive income at that point just yet, but I did know that buying cars and clothes would just be putting your money into things that lose value. Now, this book talks about that. It talks about how rich people put luxuries last, actually. And first they build assets, they build an asset base, and then when they've finished building assets, then they spend some money on luxuries. And that whole concept was new to me, like thinking of things in terms of assets and liabilities. An asset being something that generates you money every month or gains value every month whereas a liability is something that you spend money on every month or costs you money every month. And even just thinking in terms of your money as monthly cash flow in that way was a new thing that this book talked about, new to me. So think about your house. If you live in that house, you may spend money on a mortgage. You'll definitely spend money on property tax, maintenance, utilities. So if you're paying for those things and you're paying for them every month or every year, your house is actually a liability by definition of this book. Now, if you have a house that someone else is living in and you're charging rent and you're making money off that property every month, then this book would define that property as an asset. So yes, real estate is an investment, but only if it's generating you money every month. And so began my journey to better my financial literacy. Having graduated university, I knew, well, heck, if this first book that I read taught me that much, I haven't really learned a lot about financial literacy in school. Now, I'm not saying I'm perfect. 10 years later, I'm still reading books, I'm still learning new things, and I'm sharing those things with you, but at least I'm a lot better off now knowing than I was 10 years ago. By the way, guys, if you're liking this review, please remember to hit that subscribe button, tell your friend about this channel, and I'll be sure to make more book reviews, and give me some suggestions in the comments below. I'll give you a second to do that. So let's go over the lessons that this book talks about. So lesson number 1, the rich don't work for money. And what that talks about is passive income, the whole concept of passive income, and how it's different from working for a paycheck and just living from paycheck to paycheck. Lesson number 2 is called Why Teach Financial Literacy. It talks about how our school system has essentially failed us and doesn't really teach us financial principles, doesn't teach us to buy assets, and why it's important to learn those concepts. Lesson number 3 is called Mind Your Own Business. It talks about building what they call an asset column, or basically putting money into your assets and then making it so that you don't have to ever pull that money out. It'll just start generating more money for you. Lesson number 4 is called The History of Taxes and the Power of Corporations, and it talks about taxes and how corporations are able to reduce the amount of tax that they pay, and likewise what your job is to be able to keep as much of your money as you can. Lesson number 5 is called The Rich Invent Money, and this chapter talks about kind of looking at different things as opportunities to generate monthly cash flow for you. So let's say you want to buy a new Porsche, like a new car. There's nothing wrong with that. The book doesn't say there's anything wrong with that, but it says, now look for other opportunities that will generate you the cash flow you need to pay for that car, and then it's like driving that car for free. The 6th and final lesson is called Work to Learn, Don't Work for Money. And what that one talks about is basically the FI in the FIRE movement. So FIRE standing for Financial Independence, Retire Early. So it talks about that financial independence. It says, well, what if you didn't need your job to pay for your bills all the time? Wouldn't that totally change the way that you looked at your job? And what it says is not to work for money. Let the money work for you. If you work for money, then you've given the power to your employer. Whereas when money works for you, that's real financial freedom. So those are the lessons from this book, guys. Again, highly recommend that you pick this one up. I'm keeping my copy, but I will leave a link below if you guys are interested in buying this one online. Again, highly recommended that you pick this one up. It's a must. I will leave the links to the rest of my book reviews below if you're interested in those. I hope you like this video, guys. Tune in next week. I'm going to talk about how and why I broke up with my financial planner. So I'm going to get back to my personal financial journey and getting all of my finances in order. So if you're interested in that, hit that notification bell and you'll be notified when that video drops. Until next week, guys, have a great week and spread the wealth. See ya!